This FedGov Today program is sponsored by REI Systems and W2 Communications. On this edition of FedGov Today with Francis Rose, unlocking the power of data analytics. The chair of the Federal Chief Data Officers Council tells you how. The AI connection for government data success and the information future for the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. Lieutenant General Matthew Glavey is here. Welcome to FedGov Today with Francis Rose. Enterprise data analytics success stories from the Departments of Agriculture and State are serving as models for the rest of the federal government. Those stories and more best practices for data management are available now from the Federal Chief Data Officers Council. Kirsten Dalboe is the Chief Data Officer at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. She's chair of the Federal CDO Council. Kirsten, welcome. It's great to see you. This document is called The Power of Enterprise Analytics. Why did the CDO Council put it out there, and what do you want data professionals in government to do with it? Welcome.
Right, yeah, thanks so much for having me here today. So really, society is driven by data, and even before technology existed, societies have been driven by data. So we want the federal government to reflect the needs of the nation with our data. Federal Chief Data Officers are positioned to revolutionize the strategic use of data in decision making. So enterprise analytics is really a vital tool to aid in articulating the data's transformative capabilities to the stakeholder. So really the enterprise analytics paper, the reason we put it together was because people really resonate with the use of data. Mm-hmm. You know, data governance, data management, it can feel very bureaucratic, very governmental. It can be hard to engage in. Enterprise analytics is the carrot to the stick of data governance. So enterprise analytics is a great way to empower CDOs to be able to see that full data lifecycle. You know, leadership might want to see dashboards on particular types of information, not realizing that our underlying source systems don't necessarily support that because we haven't necessarily implemented the same data standards across all of our source systems. So the reason we created this was as a tool to help our data officers think about opportunities to get people to engage in the really important, challenging conversations of data governance. So really, how should CDOs use this? I mean, there are a lot of opportunities for enterprise analytics. It can act as a bridge from that data collection process into the actionable insights that the agency wants. And it's also a great opportunity for CDOs to partner closely with CIOs. You know, we're uniquely positioned to foster this data-driven culture by integrating both the data management and the IT strategies effectively. I often talk about data in terms of these cookie analogies because it helps people kind of understand it. You know, CDOs are working with lots and lots and lots of ingredients. CIOs are working with all these kitchen tools. We want to make sure that we can bring the ingredients effectively into the kitchen so we can bake really cool stuff. So we wanted to make sure that we could provide some of these powerful tools to our CDOs to think about that. And really, we want our stakeholders to think beyond our CDOs, to think about their role in the data lifecycle. I mean, data is a team sport. I can't think of any role across government that doesn't touch the data lifecycle somewhere. I mean, a doctor, a lawyer, they're engaging with data in some way. A doctor might be entering information into a person's electronic health record as a way to enter into that data lifecycle so we can now track that data the same way a lawyer engages with data to make legal decisions and put their case together. So having this paper out there is just serves as a tool to help people think about how we interact with the data lifecycle and that the enterprise analytics really is that kind of tangible delivery of the data strategy.
Were the State Department and the Agriculture Department doing something special that caused them to be the examples that you use in this work, or was there something else, some other reason that you settled on them instead of other agencies? I
mean, that's a great question. I mean, USDA and State Department have really phenomenal enterprise analytics programs, so they served as kind of case studies for this. I know a number of other agencies are using enterprise analytics strategies. And so we used USDA and State Department as the case study to really highlight how this is valuable, how it works.
What makes for a successful enterprise analytics program? What does that look like that an agency knows it's on track when it's doing so?
I mean, from my perspective, a successful enterprise analytics program is one that delivers a core set of enterprise dashboards that the community, whether that's internal to an agency or the public, can interact with that set of dashboards, and they can fully trace and know where that data was sourced. So it's also all the data governance that comes before that. You know, okay, do we understand the authoritative, trusted source of where we source the data? Do we have clear definitions for the data and the data standards used to be able to display it effectively for that enterprise use for our customers?
I love the analogy about CIOs and CDOs and what they have, what they bring into the kitchen there. How does one know that that relationship is working as well as it can be? And how does one know that maybe there is still room for improvement in the way that those two shops interact?
I mean, that is a great question. I mean, CDOs sit in many different places in the organization. And I've been at multiple agencies and sat in different places doing a lot of this data work. I mean, it's just really important to have a strong partnership, positive relationship with the CIO and the CIO's team. And frankly, I mean, you know that you have a good relationship and a good partnership when things are working in tandem and that you're supporting each other, and that when we need to look at, okay, we have this enterprise analytic requirement, we want to build a dashboard for, let's say, work tracking events. We have good partnerships with the CIO team where that data is being sourced, so that when we talk through, okay, what does the data dictionary look like, what do the data standards look like, those conversations happen seamlessly, and we are strong partners in that process. Sometimes there's challenges when there's just the confusion of why are you asking this, and then there's the education process about why we need to have clarity on the data dictionary and the data standards and things like that. But in general, you know, having that strong partnership, the strong relationship really helps in moving all of this stuff forward, because we both come from those different perspectives. You know, I care strongly about the ingredients. You know, CIO is going to care strongly about the kitchen, but we need all of this stuff to work together effectively. Where
the CDO sits in the organization is one of the things that you and your colleagues on the CDO Council checked on in the most recent CDO Council survey, 2023 survey. Did you get a sense of what difference it makes where that CDO sits in the agency and who they report to, as far as the ability of those CDOs to carry out the mission that they're charged with?
Yeah, I mean, so in some ways, the original reason that we put the survey out was because, you know, as a Federal CDO Council, we are tasked with supporting our peer CDOs. So in some ways, we need to know who those CDOs are and what their situations are. Mm-hmm. So that means, you know, where do they sit organizationally? What are their areas of responsibility? What are their common challenges? So initially, we really just wanted to get a sense of what everyone's situations were, mm-hmm. Because frankly, while the Evidence Act required agencies to hire a chief data officer, they left it up to individual agencies for how they position that CDO. So the survey initially was just to get a sense of what those situations are for each of our CDOs. But it is pretty interesting to see how kind of it played out, where there was a pretty broad mix of where CDOs reported, mm-hmm. And in some ways, from looking at the results of the survey, we could see a broad brush of different scenarios of where they reported, the level of resourcing and staffing. But in general, sometimes the most common denominator of success is really the ability to build strong relationships and partnerships with peers, because no matter who you report to, you're going to have to partner with many other parts of the organization. And having been at multiple agencies where some of those agencies I've reported to a CIO, some I have not, and it really didn't matter as long as I had a good, strong partnership with the CIO and my program office leadership, where a lot of that data is coming from.
Access more important than location, it sounds like.
That's generally been what I've seen, and so we'll see how that continues to play out. But relationships and partnerships are always going to be key to success.
Kirsten Dalboe, thanks very much for joining me. It's great to have you on the show. You can find links to all the documents we talked about from the CDO Council on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the AI connection for government data success. FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment.
The
The latest episode of Innovation in Government is coming from FedGov Today, presented by Carasoft, recorded on location at West 24 in San Diego. You'll learn from leaders from the Navy, Coast Guard, Space Command, and the Marine Corps as they explore how artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and network modernization are revolutionizing defense strategies and operations. You'll hear more about the innovations transforming government and military capabilities. Innovation in Government, March 5th at 8:30 p.m. on WJLA 24/7 News and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. Find a preview at innovationingov.com. Welcome back. Those federal CDOs Kirsten and I just talked about are important partners in a lot of agency work, according to federal CIOs, chief financial officers, and other leaders. One area more federal leaders tell me their data experts are important is customer experience. Andy Zeswitz is chief technology officer at REI Systems. Andy, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. Regarding that customer experience, evidence-based decision-making is the way a lot of agencies are using data and trying to apply it to customer experience. What are the ways that you're starting to see agencies structure data in order to be able to accomplish those goals?
So the agencies are structuring data around mission. The challenge that they have is the volume of data and the way that those data are structured. But to serve the purpose of government, right, to provide services to citizens, to potential citizens, looking at how to leverage those data and apply them to a particular challenge, a particular problem, building on that customer experience.
The customer experience piece of that then intersects how with having data structured, knowing where it came from, and as Kirsten talked about, knowing what the source of the data was and all of that.
Absolutely. So the ability to take those data in a way that is ensuring the confidentiality, the integrity, the accessibility of those data, and applying those to a customer experience problem is paramount. Understanding what's called data provenance. How the data existed over time, how it's used, but then taking those data and finding ways to solve the problems that exist within systems today. Mm-hmm. I think you'll find that several folks indicate that federal systems aren't always easy to use.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, yes.
So part of the mission is to take those data and actually make those systems easier to use for the citizens.
Mm-hmm. You talked about one of the challenges being the volume of data that agencies are dealing with. How are they dealing with that challenge? What are you seeing agencies do successfully to try to mitigate? I mean, they can't help it. The data is going to come in. What do they do with it all? Is, I guess, the question.
Sure, and it is a monumental challenge. Decades upon decades of data in various formats. Data have changed structure over time. I think one of the biggest pieces is really the evolution and the empowerment of the chief data officer, right? Somebody who it's their mission to understand the data, to label the data, to actually curate, govern the data, but then also provide those data to make actionable services for, again, citizen enrichment.
There are some things that government has to do, privacy considerations and others that commercial organizations don't have to do. How are those things impacting all of these issues that we've talked about so far, Andy?
No, absolutely. That's a great question. The privacy of individual citizens is something that the federal government takes very seriously. There are laws on how some data can be used. There are data protections. There are data protection acts that are in place to protect citizen data. Part of the challenge is the interpretation of how data can be used. Right? So there are different levels of data, different ways of using the data. If you go onto a computer system, an IT system online, you somewhat expect that your data might actually be, you have to put it in once, it comes out. that may not be the case because of some of the data protections that are actually in place. But the other way that data can be used would be in relation to enterprise data analytics. And in that scenario, data can be anonymized. So it's no longer associated with an individual citizen, but you're able to aggregate data and be able to look at insights, whether those are usage patterns, error rates, looking more at a longitudinal or analysis over time.
With 30 seconds left, what's the role of AI potentially in all of this?
I think we are just scratching the surface of artificial intelligence. The data as they exist today are not necessarily conducive for a lot of government systems to leverage the capability or the promise of artificial intelligence. Classification may be a more immediate use. Generative AI, which is catching the news a lot lately, is a little bit further off, I think.
Andy, thanks very much for joining me. Appreciate your time. You can read more about the intersection of data analytics and other government challenges on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the information future for the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. Lieutenant General Matthew Glavy's here when FedGov Today with Francis Rose continues in a moment. The latest episode of Innovation in Government is coming from FedGov Today, presented by Carasoft, recorded on location at West 24 in San Diego. You'll learn from leaders from the Navy, Coast Guard, Space Command, and the Marine Corps as they explore how artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and network modernization are revolutionizing defense strategies and operations. You'll hear more about the innovations transforming government and military capabilities. Innovation in Government, March 5th at 8:30 p.m. on WJLA 24/7 News and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. Find a preview at innovationingov.com. Welcome back. The Commandant of the Marine Corps, General Eric Smith, has a three-pronged priority strategy for his service. The Marine Corps Deputy Commandant for Information, Lieutenant General Matthew Glavy, says each of the three priorities intersects with his areas of responsibility. At West 2024 in San Diego recently, he told me how.
So the Commandant has very eloquently stated that his three priorities are people, readiness, modernization. Nothing earth-shattering there, but execution of that is critical. For me, as both my CIO hat and my Director of Intelligence hat, I have a big chunk of that. So from a readiness standpoint, the network really matters. The network matters because that's our ability to get data to the warfighter when and wherever they need it. So we have done a lot here. We have completely transformed our network into a hybrid cloud. Cloud matters. Cloud makes sure that that data is available when and where the warfighter needs it. So big, huge step forward for the Marine Corps. The second part is command and control. As you know, in a military organization, command and control is critical. Really the first question you want answered before you take part in any mission. Command and control for the Marine Corps has been important that we get our network and our data under this command and control model. For us, it's really been a Marine Corps Forces Cyberspace Command requirement through our Marine Corps Cyberspace Operations Group, which is really the center of gravity of this organization, and then ultimately down to our network battalions. And our network battalions are out there on the edge with our Marine Expeditionary Forces and our forces forward to make sure that that data is available when and where it is required. So critical that Marines pop up wherever they need to, that instead of taking a long period of time to establish that connectivity, they have it literally immediately. So that's been critical. We've been doing other things from a readiness standpoint to include the Marine Corps Software Factory. That's really making ourselves more and more savvy on how we are going to make software really ultimately the critical enabler for what the Marine Corps is going to do going forward. There's a lot of other initiatives that we're going after, but I think those are the big ones right now.
You've spoken a lot lately about data, and one reference you made was that Marines have to master data beyond black boxes. What did you mean by that, sir?
Yeah. So I have responsibility for the Commandant in the information portfolio. That's basically those things that enter into the program objective memorandum that we want Congress to resource. And I sense sometimes that we tend to be too black box focused. And what is that? What does that exactly mean? It means like the H is too big. The hardware aspect of what we do becomes, the end all be all. So what I'm really trying to drive for, of course, with the Commandant and the rest of headquarters, Marine Corps, and the acquisition community, is more of a small h, big S, right? This capital S software environment that we need to get after, right? You can call it Superman, Superwoman, but we need a lot more big S. We tend to focus on black boxes. I'm an aviator, spent my adult life in aviation, and again, tend to be black box focused there. And there's some good reasons for that. And that's still going to be part of this formula. But at the end of the day, if we could have a greater focus on how we are going to do software, and not just the initial instantiation of it, that's important, but how does it look not like on day one, but day 101, day 1001? Software is going to be similar to, POLs, petroleum oil lubricants as an aviator. Our ops and maintenance funding is going to be more and more focused on software, because that's the magic that's going to make our hardware really impactful. Yeah. There's a lot, and we're seeing more of that in the battle space right now, but that's my goal when I say, we need to be more software-centric, vice hardware-centric.
Understood. And I imagine you have a great understanding of that when you get in the cockpit of an aircraft, for example, and you see what that pilot has access to today that maybe you didn't when you were first flying, and the difference that software has made in the ability of that pilot to be able to do his or her mission.
At the end of the day, the F-35, the magic of the F-35 is the ability to fuse and correlate data on board the airplane. It's absolutely amazing what it can do. A past deputy commandant for aviation once called it a flying server. And it was quite a few years ago, but I think he was very accurate, and really the depth and breadth of what that airplane can do is how smart it is. So that's critical going forward, and it's a great example.
Another area you've spoken about recently is space. And you said recently, no space, no chance. What were you referring to there, sir?
So space, I had the incredible privilege of standing up Marine Corps Forces Space Command. Learned a lot being around Space Command, how important it is. But space, of course, it's obvious, is the ultimate high ground, whether it's ISR capabilities, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance, or C4 capabilities, command and control across the force, and really even more to come. Space is only constrained by 2.99 times 10 to the 8 meters per second. Of course, that's the speed of light. Space is infinitesimal. We are rapidly moving in space. It's been a very innovative environment. Our industry partners are unconstrained on how fast they are moving. We have to take full advantage of their innovation and really inspiration on making space so beneficial for the Marine Corps. So as an aviator, I know how important the air domain is, and certainly, from a concept of operations, it was always, hey, we got to get the air domain first, right? Once we get the Air Force in there, set up the Joint Force Air Component Commander to do the C2 of the battle space, right? The rest of the force can flow. All I'm trying to equate here is how important the air domain is. The space domain is now going to fall probably on top of that, right? And our ability to operate, maneuver in the battle space, we are going to have a space advantage, just like we always needed an air advantage. So very similar, but that's the evolution of war fighting, and it's going to be important we take full advantage of it and embrace it.
So you have portfolio responsibility and or experience in 3 domains: air, space, cyber. Connect those 3 together, and what you see either the Marine Corps doing as a warfighting service at some future point, or where you would like to see them go to get to that future vision.
I tell you, one of the ethos of the Marine Corps is this idea of combined arms, right? It's a cultural thing for us from the time you come in on the footprints, every Marine a rifleman, all that cultural stuff on ultimately how we bring the full integration of fires and effects, to put the adversary in a predicament right, continues through all domains. To include, as the Marine Corps, we have introduced information as a warfighting function, which really gets after that. How do we bring information into this combined arms metric that in the past has been maneuver and kinetics focused, now becomes more and more non-kinetic information focused. So, combined arms is going to be critical going forward. That's been a place where the Marine Corps has thrived from an ethos standpoint, and more we want to bring all of that together, and I think that will be our advantage.
You mentioned the cloud. From a tactical perspective, sir, what do you need or need more of to realize the vision that you just laid out?
Yeah, so the cloud's critical, and people, we of course established a hybrid cloud. So what does that mean, right? It means that you have the data that you need with you when and wherever you are. So whether it's complete reach back into the cloud or some type of hybrid cloud instance that you have with you, right? The ability to mesh those things seamlessly is critical. We talked about space. Space is a critical enabler to that. The ubiquitous aspect of transport that space provides for the movement of data is so important to that model. So wherever our Marines are, they're going to have to either make sense, or act, and those things are enabled by much of the applications that either exist in the cloud in a reach-back mode or exist in the cloud in a forward deployed mode.
General, thanks very much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It was great being here.
You can read more about Marine Corps information operations on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in a moment. The latest episode of Innovation in Government is coming from FedGov Today, presented by Carasoft, recorded on location at West 24 in San Diego. You'll learn from leaders from the Navy, Coast Guard, Space Command, and the Marine Corps as they explore how artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and network modernization are revolutionizing defense strategies and operations. You'll hear more about the innovations transforming government and military capabilities. Innovation in Government, March 5th at 8:30 p.m. on WJLA 24/7 News and the FedGov Today YouTube channel. Find a preview at innovationingov.com. Welcome back. In today's event spotlight, FedGov Today is going on the road, and you can be there as the show unfolds live. Booz Allen's DE24, Enabling Data for Mission Outcomes, is coming March 18th. Agency leaders will tell you how they're using data to deliver on their missions, and you can watch us record a brand new episode of FedGov Today. It's happening at the Helix in downtown D.C. You can learn more about the event and the Helix and register for DE24 at fedgovtoday.com/events. FedGov Today TV returns next Sunday morning at 10:30 with Jane Rathbun, the CIO of the Navy. I'm Francis Rose. I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.